Bada bing, bada boom. Social Informed Media.
This story comes to us from the courierjournal.com. Y'all remember Breonna Taylor, right? And the shooting in March of 2020 that took her life, the screwed up no-knock warrant by Louisville Metro PD. Well, the police officer believed to have delivered that fatal bullet that killed Breonna Taylor in March of 2020 is back in law enforcement. Miles Cosgrove, who was terminated, whatever, from the Louisville Metro Police Department. He was fired in January of 2021, has been hired by the Carroll County Sheriff's Office. Chief Deputy Rob Miller told the Courier-Journal. Now, the county is about an hour northeast of downtown Louisville and has a population of about 10,000 people. Cosgrove was one of 3 officers who fired their weapons during the raid of Taylor's apartment March 13th, 2020. When Taylor and her boyfriend Kenneth Walker were in bed and Louisville Metro PD officers attempted to serve a search warrant as part of a narcotics investigation. Walker said he thought someone was breaking into his home, so he fired a shot, hit an officer. Officers returned fire with Cosgrove firing the fatal bullet, according to Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron's investigation. Now, Cosgrove was fired that next January for violating use of force procedures and failing to use a body camera during the raid. Did you hear that? Failing to use his body camera during the raid. That's why we record cops. He fired his gun 16 times, and he filed a lawsuit appealing his termination, but a judge ruled in favor of the department's decision earlier this year. So he was fired. He appealed his termination. A judge said, it was justified termination. It was a justified firing. But despite that, Cosgrove has not faced any criminal charges related to the killing. How about that? Attorney General Cameron said his investigation also found that Cosgrove was justified in returning gunfire after he and other officers were fired upon by Walker. Federal charges have been filed against 4 officers who were involved in the raid at Taylor's home, 3 accused of lying in order to obtain the search warrant, and a 4th who fired bullets into Taylor's neighbor's home. He just U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland said the federal grand jury also didn't indict Cosgrove because the officers who ultimately carried out the search at Taylor's apartment were not involved in the drafting of the warrant and were unaware of false and misleading statements that it contained. Now, Carroll County's Chief Deputy Miller pointed to this fact in reference to Cosgrove's hiring. The sheriff's officer did a background check on Cosgrove, which he passed, Miller said. He said the federal and state investigation did not lead to charges against Cosgrove, and he has nearly 2 decades of police experience. He said, we think he will help reduce the flow of drugs in our area and reduce property crimes. We felt like he was a good candidate to help us in our county. You all be the judge of that. I'm not saying nothing. Cosgrove's hiring was met with pushback in Carroll County as a small crowd gathered in protest. Antonio Brown, an activist from Louisville who had traveled to the demonstration, said the hiring spit in the face of Americans, not just people in Kentucky. Ashley Hughes, a Carroll County librarian, said that hiring an officer at the center of the Taylor case would only instill fear in her community. And then it goes down from there. It's kind of lengthy. I'll put a link to it in the description box below. But the bottom line here is that one of the officers involved in the Breonna Taylor fiasco, and you saw it, they lied to get the warrant. They gave misleading facts to get the search warrant. But not only one of the officers, but the officer they believe fired the fatal bullet has now been hired with the county sheriff's department. While others face federal indictments, particularly for that warrant that they lied to get. I mean, it's just total fiasco. Remember also Louisville Metro PD are the ones who, when the man's wife was having an episode upstairs, was she dementia or Alzheimer's? I forget. But she was having an episode and called 911. And when they came out there, he came to the door to see what was going on because he didn't know what was going on. And the police yanked him onto the ground and then laughed at him as he laid on the ground injured. Remember that? That was Louisville Metro. So any other department that would hire somebody from Louisville Metro PD, you need to have your head examined. You really do.